Gross salary is 445,000 per month.
Just a question. Looking at your CV, you worked with the IBC before. You were in the electioneering system. And what made you leave? And now you're coming back into the political arena because you left the IBC and went into your professional line of work as an accountant. And then now you want to come back to the political arena.
Thank you very much. I wouldn't say that that is a specific professional line because as a professional, there's a level that you're a technical person, but beyond which you become a policy, you take up a policy role. So I believe that the level I am at is basically a policy role in terms of providing visionary and strategic leadership to organizations. So for me, it was a matter of growth, and it was not a departure from any particular career to another. But also, you realize that as a coordinator, IBC but then the structure had stagnated for quite some time. And given that I was young, of course, I aspired for growth. So what I moved on to do was to realize progress and growth in my professional life. And therefore, that growth could be realized in whichever direction as I grow up the ladder to take up more strategic position. So I don't see myself as an accountant, even as I sit in that office at NBA today, but I see myself as a strategic leader and a policy level officer.
Thank you, Florence. You have said something extremely important, that you don't see yourself as an accountant, but as a strategic leader, of course, anchored in issues regarding policy. I'm going to ask you a question that I asked here earlier on this morning. Two questions, actually. First, I would like to know what is the National Biosafety Authority? And in very short, yes, I don't want to, you said you were responsible for finance and accounts. And then with regards to financing of political parties, what is your specific opinion on guidelines and parameters when it comes to the financing of political parties by external donors? For technical capacity or technical, it was referred to this morning in a particular section of the Act. What are your thoughts on this?
Thank you. As earlier mentioned, I said National Biosafety Authority is a regulator of the biotechnology functions in Kenya. So,
is biotechnology, if you can expound for us, please.
Basically, when we're talking about biotechnology, we're talking about modification of living organisms through various methods, including gene editing, that is basically affecting the DNA makeup of the living organisms. And that is a technology that...
To GMO in any way?
Sorry?
Is it in any way related to you said when you are doing something to the genetic makeup, is it related to genetically modified organisms in any way?
Exactly. The biotechnology is about affecting the genetic makeup of living organisms, and therefore that is we're dealing with GMOs. Maybe just to give an example, we have the recently approved BT cotton that is now being rolled out to revamp the textile industry, and that approval was given by National Biosafety Authority as the expert in matters biotechnology in Kenya. Thank you.
External funding.
Thank you very much. I know that the Political Parties Act, of course, anchored on the Constitution, limits the funding of political parties by external donors, I believe for very good reasons. And if there is any reason to review, then that could be done through an amendment of the Act. And
you are of the opinion that there is no problem with external funding of political parties? You would promote this particular agenda?
I think through the chair, if there is any need, if I have an opinion that should be anchored on the law or through an audit of the performance of the current law as it is, whether that has served the political parties or not, that technical assistance can be given to political parties, but not directly through hard money. So I believe with that technical assistance, because I believe even when we have money, the money is supposed to facilitate achievement of programs and activities that are geared towards achieving political democracy. So even if it's hard money, it will go towards programs. And if the technical support of programs is already approved and is already allowed in the Act, then unless a review is done and then the performance of the same is assessed, then I think only then will any amendment be determined either way.
Thank
you. You see, candidate, the word technical is wide, different interpretations. What Mheshimiwa is asking, in your opinion, right, would you encourage this? Would you think there should be some limitations on foreign assistance to political parties, or because of the potential influence that they carry?
Chair, for that clarification. I really appreciate it. And when we talk about potential influence, that potential influence is not necessarily political influence. It's potential influence in the area of GMOs, for example, in the area of industry.
Genetical engineering. So we don't, there is a possibility of, by analogy, there is also a potential of engineering political systems. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I think even the GMO engineering, it is also regulated. So everything must be done in moderation and within the confines of the applicable laws. So in this particular case, just to respond to the case of the question raised by the honorable member, is that anything that is not done in moderation could lead to some ills because you may not be able to control it. And in this particular case, I believe there was wisdom that informed the restriction of external financing. And at the same time, I think the moderation is very relevant. And I think it's still necessary. Probably, maybe the cap can be expanded a little bit if there is need, but I think the moderation is necessary.
Florence, let me ask you, I don't know if you have a paper and pen, because I'd have liked to ask you a series of questions, but if you don't, then I'll just ask you one at a time. Let me just ask you one at a time. First of all, I see that you served in the Kilifi government between 2014 and 2017. You were the County Director, Treasury and Planning. Could you tell us how you were appointed and assure us that you do not have any political affiliations?
Thank you very much, Chair, Honorable members. I would say that the county governments, and in particular Kilifi County Government, has an appointed County Public Service Board that is responsible for the recruitment of all the staff there. I would say that while I was working with IBC, I saw an advert in the Daily Nation. And there were a lot of jobs that had been advertised. I think there were about 3 pages. So I looked at what was interesting to me, and I submitted my application. And after some time, I was shortlisted, and I went through an interview process by the County Public Service Board. And actually, at the end of the process, when I reported, I checked with them what position I was, and they told me I was position 1 for the position for that particular post. So I believe and I can confirm that I got that job by merit. As far as political affiliations are concerned, I have no political affiliations because before then I was working with IBC, and one of the requirements as an IBC officer, as a returning officer, was that you should not have any political affiliations.
Are you a member of any political party currently?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Secondly, you, of course, disclosed what you are earning right now. If you were to get the position and it turns out that what they're offering you as salary is less than what you are earning now, will you still take it?
Fortunately, the salary for this position was actually included in the advertisement, so I know what it is offering.
So you are happy with it?
Yes, thank you.
In your CV, you indicate you worked with the National AIDS Control Council between 2006 and 2009 as finance manager. But at the same time, you indicate that in the same organization, between 2005 and 2009, you are the grants manager. So were you doing both concurrently?
Yes, and I can explain. I was initially appointed as grants manager to replace a consultant that was taking charge of that function. And once I took up the job, after exactly 8 months, the finance manager left. So the council members, in their wisdom, found me as the most suitable candidate to take over from the finance manager. So the day they confirmed me after my probation period is the same day they actually appointed me as the finance manager to take over from my predecessor. So I served both positions concurrently, yes.
Okay. In your understanding, what would be your role if you were to be approved as the assistant registrar of political parties?
Thank you. As an assistant as the assistant registrar of political parties, I would deputize the registrar. And as a deputy, then I would basically perform almost similar roles of the registrar because I offer assistance and therefore deputize the registrar. And I would consider my duties and my functions as the functions and the roles of the registrar of political parties.
If you were to have a difference of opinion with the registrar, what would you do on any one matter?
I think the procedures are very clear on how decisions are taken. But I believe that there is always room for dialogue. There is always an opportunity to express an opinion so that it can be discussed openly because it is not just about the registrar, but it's about the matter that will be subject to decision making. And I believe that I don't always have to salute and say, yes, madam, but I need to add value. So if I have an opinion that I believe will enrich, I can do it, but in a polite and in a more acceptable manner.
So you already assume that the registrar will be a lady. That's why you're saying madam. Anyway.
It's optimism.
Yes. Do you know how many political parties exist now? And what is your view in terms of that number? Is it too much? Is it too few? And the process of registration of political parties?
The last time I checked, there were 72 registered political parties. I wouldn't say there are too many or there are too few. I think my concern will be about the strength of the political parties because we are a multi-party democracy, and therefore, in a multi-party democracy, the numbers are not capped. But I think my main concern will be the strength and therefore the contribution as far as the political democracy of the country is concerned, because it's one thing to just have numbers and another thing to have numbers that are contributing to the democracy of the country.
My last question. What is your understanding of our national values and principles of public service under the Constitution?
Thank you very much. Public officers are not in office for their own capacities, and also even as a nation, there is a lot of need for us to remain together. And I think these values basically ensure that as a country, as a people, as a nation, we remain together, we live in coexistence, in harmony as we coexist, and also that there is mutual respect, there is justice for everybody, both the mighty and the small, and at the same time that to ensure that there is equitable development to every corner of the country.
Okay. Honorable Gishimo.
Thank you, Chair. My peruse of your CV shows that you also did some pro bono and charitable work in areas of civic education and empowerment. I'm interested to know briefly what was your engagement in that pro bono and charitable work.
Thank you very much. I think, but for sure that with the experience I had with IBC, even when I left the institution, but I did not leave the memory behind me. So when I moved on, I felt that the work that I had done, in as much as I was doing it in my official capacity, it was work that could still benefit the community if I moved on with it. And since I already had the knowledge, I already had the necessary training that had been given to me as I worked in IBC. So basically, looking at voter registration, basically looking at the young people, because I know there's has been a lot of reluctance, I don't want to say voter apathy, but reluctance by the young people to register. And my bit was to just make the young people appreciate that it's very important for them to register as voters and to be able to raise their voice when it comes to election of their leaders, because when it comes to election, it's not the physical voice that counts. Your voice is a vote. So basically that is the line that just to encourage the young people to participate in elections and in the choosing of their leaders.
Let me just ask questions based on some observations. You alluded to some shortcomings, right, in IBC and the related matters. Because bear in mind that IBC is closely knit with political parties. In effect, the office used to be under the IBC. What are these pertinent shortcomings that you observe as an outsider today, as an objective person and a person who worked for a stint in IBC? Critically, do you have any that you can let us know?
Thank you very much. What I would say is, number one, because as I sat in IBC, there was a change of guard once. I think one of the things that I noted, probably at a personal level, I cannot say officially, but as we exchanged views, it was a feeling across the board by several of us, is that, when the strategic team leaves at a go, and there is no possibility of anyone coming back, then that in a way erodes a lot of institutional memory at that level, because the entire commission goes. Yeah, the strategic level team goes all at a time, at one go. So I probably that would require some legislative review, but probably there could be something on rotational basis, because when you have a totally new team that is learning and at the same time providing leadership, it poses a challenge. We felt it as the lower team. Two, the issue of stagnation of officers, quite a number left, because but then if you are a coordinator, then you'll be there. Yeah, we all stayed there for about 5-6 years. There was no growth. So we know human nature, you feel frustrated, especially when you are young, you need to grow. But I believe that has been addressed. Now there are other levels that have been created, including the constituency manager levels that allow for the constituency coordinators to progress to some higher level positions. Yes, thank you.
72 political parties. And I'm sure you must have observed mature democracies in Commonwealth and elsewhere, parties, countries that are democratic. Today there are several outside the Commonwealth. Do you think it's an ideal situation where you have so many political parties? You said it's a democratic right, but the ideal situation, are they not too many?
Well, I wouldn't say there's an ideal because I don't think there is a standard. Yeah, I think different countries are at different levels of democratic maturities. So I would still stick to the fact that what works for us best is that we have strong political parties that are institutionalized or institutional based. But I think that is the gap that we have. And probably the requirements, if they were tightened, then the criteria itself would determine and therefore drop those who are not supposed to be there because they're not adding much value and retain only those who are adding much sufficient values. Because even with the 72, we can say for sure there are still some corners of this country that haven't felt the activities and programs of political parties.
My last question is, in your experience, and you said you have done some pro bono work with the youth, right? Do you think that elections as a whole, inclusive of political parties, there should be curriculum development so that it is included in school curriculum?
Yes, I would say that again. Maybe I can explain? Yeah. We talk about our youth being the leaders of tomorrow, but I think because of that, there is a disconnect. They don't feel it when they're still young. They are not socialized to it when they're still young. And therefore, when they grow up, there's that tendency that politics is not for the elites. We appreciate that in the recent elections, we've seen a lot of elites coming up and presenting themselves for election. But I think that can be improved if we started nurturing our young people right from school to appreciate that leadership is for the elites as well, especially political leadership. Politics is not for the non-elites. Politics is also for the elites because it determines the leadership of the country, which is very critical.
Okay. Thank you, Florence. We are done as a committee. Thank you for coming, and we hastened your time, and you responded very well. We're happy that you were able to come on the time that you had not been allocated to you. So we values.
True, Chair. Yeah, I also add in your voice that should she be successful, she should be an inspiration to every girl child in Kenya. But of course, she stems from Ganze. Thank you.
Confidence.
Chair, and not only girl child, any person aspiring to reach the pinnacle of their career. Okay. Even she can be an inspiration also to the boy child. We try to be relegated the boy child to the periphery nowadays and talk of girl child every now. This is one subject, Chair, we should get rid of. Even she can be an inspiration to the boy child. Why not? It's about being the best out there.
Thank you very much. You have had the very positive comments. This is not an indication that you approved, but we hope and trust that you may get the job.
For everyone, for all the problems. I will call now upon the mover to reply.
at least 15 years experience. Please just.
I worked there for 8 years. We
Why you think that you fit into the that we are seeking to occupy?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. First of all, I'd like to appreciate for this opportunity to appear before you. So I'll go ahead to introduce myself. My name is Makore Wilson. Through the registration of the citizens, if implied or put in practice in the registration and also regulation of political parties, will ensure that. Yes, please.
Yeah, Vice.
Thank you, Mr. Mohochi. I think you've walked a good journey, and I also see that you're actually progressing your master's degree. Yes. From your documents, it does appear that you got a degree in Bachelor of Arts in Economics and Political Science, which would satisfy the requirement of Section 33(6) of the Political Parties Act in at least one of the 6 areas identified, and perhaps more. But it does appear to me that you only got that degree in 2017. That section requires, Section 33(6)(c), for assistant registrar, you need to have at least 10 years post-qualification experience. And it bothers me a little, so I want you to demonstrate to us how you have 10 years post-qualification experience. Please.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Atendo Molo, for that question. And I'd like to respond as follows. When you talk about 10 years experience, when I look at the journey that I've taken in my education and also where I have worked before, the experience I've gained through working in various institutions, though it has been on contract basis, I've had enough experience that if put into practice, it will be able to transform the office. Basically, what motivated me to apply for this job, in consideration of that experience, when I worked with IBC, Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, and also bring about my master's degree, all this brought together gives me enough experience that I believe, if given an opportunity, I'll be able to change the face of the office of the registrar of political parties. Because when you look at some of the requirements, I have always been devoted to grow my professional career.
I think, Chair, with your kind permission,
Yes.
I think so that with the due respect to our the person we are vetting, I think your question is very clear, because what is the qualification are we talking about? I believe is the degree. So experience ought now to stem from the degree coming, forward. So I believe that is where we should start, so that actually we appreciate. We've had several other experiences in other areas, including IBC, even before graduation. But now the qualification under the Act, it's a degree. Then from the degree to this ed, you can see in my own calculation it's about 3 years or less. Because actually graduation at the University of Nairobi is around December. So we are yet even in December 2010.
Point taken.
Thank you.
Chacha, let us not equivocate about it. You don't have the necessary 10 years post-graduation. Yes. So that we are clear. Yeah, this does not mean you fail, but that you know you have a lot of experience, but not gained post-2017.
Yes, you're right.
Okay, fine.
Just then, I terminate my questions. Indeed, your CV suggests that your earliest employment was in 2012 as a voter registration assistant in IBC. Would you confirm that was your first employment?
Yes.
Okay.
Mheshimiwa Mutai.
Chairman, I mean, for the purposes of Chapter 6 of the Constitution, I'm taking you, Chair, to the clearances from the Directorate of Criminal Investigation. The information reaching Parliament is that of all the applicants, the persons listed is the only person who was never cleared by the DCI. I don't know the reason why, because there's a letter correspondence dated 14th of September 2010 regarding vetting of nominees for appointment to the position of registrar and assistant registrars of political parties. And therein, the DCI says the office confirms that the below listed applied for police clearance on diverse dates and were generally issued a police clearance certificate. 1 Anderitu, Ali Abdullahi Shuro, Florence Tabu. However, this office was unable to clear Mr. Wilson Makore Mahochi, ID number 30296683. Police clearance application was still in progress. I don't know if you can shed light on that, or if you have that police clearance with you, you can furnish the chair with it, a copy of it. Because the records reaching Parliament is that you are never cleared by DCI.
Do you have any comments on that observation? If it is wrong, or you have some knowledge why it was not?
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and thank you, the Honorable Member, for that question. I can confirm that I was cleared. I got my certificate on the 15th. I have it here. Yes, I just printed the original one.
Your request for it before when this letter came to the.
So thank you, Honorable Chair. I submitted my request in June.
Yes.
But because of the pandemic, when I visited the office, they were not working.
Okay.
So I also went there last week. That's when I took my fingerprints for the same.
But just so you know, and I think that's what the Honorable Member was asking, Honorable Mutai, that the letter we have from the National Police Service is that they were unable to clear you, Mr. Wilson Makore Mohochi, ID number, that application as it is still in process. So I think he was inviting you to comment to that. Because the other interviews we've had, somehow they've cleared. But yours, they are saying it's in process. And I think the Honorable Mutai wanted to know why, if you have any comment on that issue.
So basically, what happened is I had submitted, I made my application, and the application I submitted twice. That is in June. So when I made the payment and also went for the fingerprints, what was processed is the one that I have right now. But there is a one that still indicates still in progress. But when I asked the DCI office, they told me that it does not have any problem as long as you have been cleared, because what you submitted is the ID. And once they get the ID, they're able to check through the system and confirm on your clearance, of which I had already received on the 15th.
Shamal has a question. Honorable Shamal?
I think,
Honorable Shamal, you had a question.
Issue, I just think it's not very clear. Why did the applicant make 2 applications? You're saying that you applied twice. Why?
There was an erroneous application. The second one, I checked
a moment. When you say there was an erroneous your erroneous application.
Yes.
And why was it erroneous?
What happened is, when I was making the application, I submitted the first application. Then, when checking the system, I clicked apply again, which is generated another one.
So what was erroneous?
The second submission of an application.
First one?
Yes.
If you applied the first time,
yes,
and it was not erroneous, why were you applying the second time? And what was the error in the second application?
There was no error in the second application. The only thing is that it indicated that I submitted 2 applications with different codes. I submitted 2 applications in the same month.
Why?
So I said when I was making the application, after submitting the first one, I clicked erroneously the second option of apply again, which generated another application. So when I made a payment in regard to the first application, which I was cleared with.
Or an X. You?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mochoche, you see, it marks some non-disclosure because, first of all, you said it was because of COVID, not because of multiple applications. And as you observe, all the applications, the job was advertised during COVID, right?
Yes.
And all the other candidates also applied for these certificates during COVID. Theirs were out without any reservations. Yours, there was a reservation, right? So your explanation is that you erroneously applied double. You had double application.
Yes, but when I confirmed on the same from the DCI, they told me that it does not have any problem as long as they have cleared me. So they follow the one that has been given out.
Very well. Members, you have any? Mheshimiwa Kamoti?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The law as it is that anybody who advances ideologies or interests of another political party is deemed to have resigned from his original party. And this has been a problem in the office of the registrar. How do you intend to tackle this problem for Kenyans? Thank you.
Just noted in your documents, Bwana Wilson, that you are one of the youth team members of Okoth Obado during campaign. And then you are a very active mobilizer of the youth. I think that links up with that. For the individual. He says, I did campaign for gubernatorial candidate in 2017, Honorable Zachary Okoth Obado, as a member of a youth team with the responsibility of wooing voters to support him in that decision, in that election. I left the campaign before the election time and never kept any close contact with him. But it's just about the party affiliation and that you are the youth leader, youth team.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Also, thank you, Honorable Member, for that questions. Let me start with your question. In regard to have campaigned for the governor who was on ODM, I campaigned for him before the ODM primaries. And the reason as why I joined that campaign, by that time I was not doing anything. So I had also served as a student leader at the University of Nairobi before. and I was known by other students. And also there is an association that I started with other students called Korea University College and University Student Association. And it was basically focused on bringing peace in the warring two Korea clans, which we resolved. And after that, I was known, and many politicians approached me to join their camp. So that's when I was approached by other youths to join them in pushing for the agenda of re-election of the governor. So immediately after the primaries, when he was given the certificate, I was with them partially, then I left. I did not continue being in the campaign. That's when I quitted, and I made an application to work with Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commissions, which came in July that year. So I disconnected completely because I needed to remain political and neutral to serve the people in another position whereby I need to have political neutrality.
Mohochi, thank you for coming. Do you have a final comment to me?
Chair is not commented on my question. At least a comment.
So, I have it. I can still respond. I still remember your question. So, you asked about when a candidate advances the interests of another political party. And that has been a challenge in the office of the Register of Political Parties, and you asked how I can be able to resolve that one. So, when you look at the Political Parties Act 2011, it's very clear that when a candidate advances the interests of another political party, that is one way of deeming the candidate to have resigned from that political party. So best way is to ensure that you re-register that candidate from that political party and allow them to join that other political party which they are advancing their interest for. Because that is what the Act says. When you can deem a candidate to have resigned. And it's basically by advancing the ideologies and the interests of another political party, which is a competitor with other parties. So,
is it your position that when you participated or actively for Obado or for the party, right? You are not active, or you did?
I was active.
Okay.
Three very short. Wilson, in your very extensive CV and extensive experience, you've worked for Red Cross amongst other organizations. You talk about the fact that you participated in food feeding programs for the less fortunate under the Red Cross program. You talk about the fact that under a Norwegian grant, you conducted a study in Czechoslovakia, and you, of course, have also worked with the IEBC when it comes to voter registration. And in your own words, you state that you have a remarkable knowledge in statistical packages. Very quickly, in less than half a minute, when it comes to food feeding programs of the less fortunate in Nairobi slums, on an average day, how many people did you feed? How did you identify where to feed them using statistics? And then I want to ask you about the issues with regards to voter registration. What was the biggest challenge in voter registration? And what percentage of people, if any, stated that they needed incentives to actually register?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and thank you very much, Honorable, for that question. So when you talk about the people that we fed, when I was working as a volunteer with Kenya Red Cross Society, there is a village in High Ridge whereby there are people who went and fed there, about 300.
Name of the village?
It's just called High Ridge, but it's a small village within High Ridge that is just there whereby we have the slums.
To where in High Ridge?
When you move from High Ridge, for example, Nakumatt High Ridge.
Just on that main road that connects Nakumatt to Diamond Plaza?
Yes.
And to Westlands, just on that road?
Exactly.
Where you have the police station, on the left you take the road to go to High Ridge.
Yes.
There's a village there.
When you go, as if you're heading to Westlands from High Ridge, there's a village there. But then another one that we fed, we did it at Mountain View, whereby we had an organization. There is an Indian gentleman who had supplied
So there's
food.
a village on High Ridge
Yes.
on that road.
There's
and
a
then
slum. There is a slum there where you have some people who are not.
I can confirm.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So another one that we did was about 600 people that we fed. It was hosted at Mountain View. And the person who supplied the food, personally, I went there to assist in feeding because I was working as a volunteer at Kenya Red Cross Society. That's when I was invited. So 600 people were fed. And personally, what the Indian guy did, he requested people from various homes, the people who could not be able to feed themselves. That's why G-Trends and also mothers in the slums. So they came there and we were just assisting to give out
with
the food.
regards to voter registration, what were the challenges?
So the biggest challenge with the voter registration that I encountered is that most people were not aware on why they should register, especially when we started in 2012 with the biometric voter registration. So there's some people who could come and tell me, I have heard that this thing of a register will take my blood. So that is because of lack of knowledge. So that is the biggest challenge that we are facing.
Okay, last but not least, you said you have a basic working knowledge of Czech,
Yes.
the national language of Czechoslovakia. How do you say the word "I don't understand" in Czech?
I only had the basic knowledge.
I'm asking you, how do you say the word "I don't understand" in Czech?
Nedobre.
Okay, it isn't, but...
Yes, Vice.
Mr. Mohochi, just one last question. Under your CV, under the rubric Education and Qualification, and also under the forms you filled with the PSC, you list Masters of Research and Public Policy as one of your educational qualifications. And yet, in fact, you are still a student. Do you agree that you cannot fill as a qualification what you are yet to earn?
Thank you, Honorable Chair, for the question. But I indicated ongoing.
Yes, but it's under the education and qualification. Do you agree that you ought not to put what you have not yet earned? Or you do not agree?
Because when it's mentioned about education, that one qualifies. When you talk about qualification, that's when you don't put it in.
Short comment on your observations here on us, or what you would wish, any comments that you have.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, for this opportunity again. I can say that I appreciate for this chance, and I hope that you consider me for this position that I can have a chance to serve the great people of Kenya and collaborate with you to ensure that we transform our nation. Thank you. No. I'm not disadvantaged because this is a procedure which needs to be followed.
You brought your time from 4 o'clock. We advanced your time.
No, the issue of time has no problem because I was ready for the interview.
If you can confirm there. Thank you for coming, and a good day.
I appreciate it. Yes, I don't know if you have the clearance from the office of the registrar.